Good evening, dear friends. Thank you for joining me on this Sunday afternoon, evening. It might be Monday morning in some other parts of the world. I'm always happy when this hour approaches because I get to spend time looking into the Bible and reading some literature and walking through the park at 6 in the morning thinking, what am I going to say about the apocalypse tonight? It's just amazing that so many people are interested in this topic, in this book of the Bible. I enjoy sharing. I don't always know beforehand what I'm going to say, so it may come out differently than you expect. I realize this is not a scholarly undertaking. I'm not quite sure what it is. It's partly meditative. It's partly examining the text and just trying to make some sense out of this Bible text that has confused and irritated and annoyed even the most profound scholars through the ages. And it's also that, perhaps that part of the Bible that is the most misunderstood, the most misinterpreted. And of course, I've said earlier, this word apocalypse and apocalyptic and so on have been kind of twisted into different meanings and different usages, so that when we talk about the apocalypse, the book of Revelation, it can get a little scary even sometimes. And the pictures are very drastic, whether you take them as an outward materialistic picture from stars falling from the heavens or fire being thrown down by the angels to the earth, or a third of people being wiped away by plague or smoke. And at the moment I'm sitting in Southern California in our congregation in Los Angeles, where people are avoiding the outdoors because the smoke is rather pervasive, and it's not as pervasive here as it is farther north in Oregon, in Washington. And I do hope those of you who pray do keep those areas in your prayers. It's quite devastating what's going on. You might say it's apocalyptic, and I hope it can be apocalyptic in the sense of revealing to human beings that our environment, our earth, is a lot more fragile than we might have thought. All right, I get off my soapbox now and back to the book of Revelation. We've seen how there was a scroll, a book roll, parchment, sealed with 7 seals, and how the Lamb was found to be worthy to open the 7 seals and open them successively one by one, and how as the 7th seal opened, that it had no content of its own, but that it bore the seal of the next cycle, namely 7 angels with 7 trumpets, 7 trombone, bugle-like instruments that begin to sound. And it was in these first 6 trumpets sounding that showed almost as if it seemed like the whole universe is collapsing and falling to pieces, and plagues and disasters and people worshiping idols, violence. And in a way, you could almost say it's not so unlike our world today. So one wonders, and I wonder simply. It's not my intention to pin these things down and say the 5th trumpet is then and the 6th trumpet was then. That's not a particularly productive way of approaching the apocalypse. But we are, with our reading today, in the midst of the 6th trumpet. So just to back up a tiny bit, where is it? The 6th angel sounds, a voice comes from the 4 horns of the golden altar before God, saying to the angel which had the trumpet, Loose the four angels which are bound. And these four angels, you might remember, were holding, as it were, the four corners of the earth so that many plagues would not be released on humankind. And now these angels have released many, many plagues. Fire, smoke, brimstone, monstrous serpents, insects, plagues, human beings worshiping idols of gold, silver, brass, murderers, sorcerers, and so on and so forth. So you might say things are getting really, really bad. And then, as we've had often a kind of stepping back and almost a pacification of the process, chapter 10 begins. I'm going to read you chapter 10. It's not very long, but it's very, very full and very rich and very colorful. So get ready. It's Apocalypse chapter 10. And I saw another mighty angel come down from the heavens, clothed with a cloud, and a rainbow upon its head, and its face was, as it were, the sun, and its feet as pillars of fire. And the angel had in its hand a little book, and it set its right foot upon the sea, and its left foot upon the earth. And it cried with a loud voice, as if a lion were roaring. And when the angel cried, 7 thunders answered. And when the 7 thunders had uttered their voices, I was about to write. And I heard a voice from heaven saying to me, seal up those things which the 7 thunders said, and do not write them down. And the angel which I saw upon the sea and upon the earth lifted its hand to heaven and swore by the one who lives into the ages of ages, the one who created the heavens and all the things therein, and the earth and all the things therein, and the sea and all the things therein, that there should no longer be time. But in the days of the voice of the 7th angel, when it began to sound, the mystery of God, eat it up, and it shall be bitter in your stomach, but in your mouth it shall be sweet as honey. And I took the little book out of the hand of the angel and ate it up. And it was in my mouth sweet as honey. And as soon as I had eaten it, my stomach became bitter. And the angel said to me, you must prophesy again before many peoples and nations and tongues and kings. This was chapter 10 of the book of Revelation. I put in the announcement of this evening the seal, not to be confused with the 7 seals, the seal designed by Rudolf Steiner and colored in by another artist, a depiction of this particular chapter. We see another mighty angel descending from heaven, clothed in a cloud, a rainbow upon its head, its face like the sun, and feet as pillars of fire. Now just imagine, take this into your thought for a moment. An angel, a mighty angel, another mighty angel. We've had quite a few angels, mighty angels, and now another mighty angel descending from heaven, clothed with a cloud, a rainbow upon its head, the face shining as the sun, the feet pillars of fire. What a picture. Fire in the underpinnings, cloud around, clothed in a cloud, a rainbow above its head. We could go on and on about these pictures, but just imagine fire, the element that is closest to the earth, closest to human beings. And that element of the cloud, this transition place. A cloud is a transition being. It's neither liquid, nor solid, nor gas, but it's all of those, a cloud. It contains all of those elements. A cloud is a shapeshifter. It's constantly changing according to the wind and the currents in the air. And this rainbow, the rainbow that bears so much symbolism in the Bible, the rainbow that was the symbol of reconciliation of human beings with the divine at the end of the flood. And now this particular other mighty angel appears in the midst of all of this catastrophic occurrences, descends from heaven. We've talked about that before, that we're not talking about something descending like on a string on a stage, but this descending from heaven is a condensation of a mighty spiritual being into a perceivable, into a form that a human being, schooled as John was, can perceive and can describe with words. And this mighty angel has in its hand a little book. The book is open. Again, not a book like this book that I have here, but it would be a scroll. Imagine a scroll unrolled, so that a great deal of text would be visible. And then this angel does something to further increase its symbolism, its reach, its dynamics. It has one foot, it sets, active. It sets one foot on the sea and the other foot on the earth. Right foot on the sea, left foot on the earth. So this angel is not only a mighty being in and of itself with powers that are not even described here, but it encompasses such elements as the sea and the earth, and it carries with it the knowledge that has been preserved in a book that is to be handed over to John. We're not there yet. It cries out like a lion roaring, and 7 thunders answer. Now, thunder itself, of course, is a physical outer occurrence, which I might have learned about in physics class if I'd ever taken physics, but I never got that far. It can all be explained with outer terms. It can also be understood as an expression of heavenly beings, of particular angels in hierarchical setting, who take care that this auditory symbol, this auditory message, comes from outside the earth to dwellers of the earth. And now 7 thunders. Those of us who live in areas where it thunders and lightnings might appreciate this, that thunder is not something that comes in beautiful rhythmic patterns, but it can be a very loud thunder and then a soft rumbling. It can be in the distance. It comes often together with lightning. It can go on and on and on and on, or it can be a very loud clap. 7 thunders answer. And apparently these 7 thunders utter something that John can make sense out of, because he wants to seal it. He wants to write it down. And the angel says, do not write it. Seal it up. Do not write it. And the angel makes a particular gesture. It lifts a hand to heaven and swears by the one who lives into the ages of ages. He swears to the one who's created the heavens and everything in it, to the earth and everything in it, to the sea and everything in it, that time shall be no more. This is an amazing moment. We wonder, what kind of condition is this angel introducing into humanity? that time shall be no more. He doesn't say it's going to happen right now, but apparently a time is going to come in our development as human beings where time ceases to exist. And it's important that this particular mighty angel seals this occurrence with an oath, just as we see people taking office raise a hand, put another hand on the Bible or a Quran or an Old Testament. Many things are being used these days. This one swears by the highest creator, I would think, the one who lives into the ages of ages, who created heavens, earth, sea, and all beings in there. And then again, a reference to this seventh angel that's coming up. We're still in the sixth trumpet, remember? But already promising the seventh angel will sound its trumpet, and the mystery of God will be fulfilled. And now John receives a new command. The voice that I heard from heaven spoke to me again and says, "Go and take the little book, which is open in the hand of the angel who stands upon the sea and upon the earth." Now, John is an earthly being, and an angel is a non-earthly, an immaterial being. John's vision has been so trained and schooled that he is able to look into the realm in which this angelic being lives. And he's able to see, to describe the angel with earthly words. And now he receives a command to go to the angel and to receive the book that it's holding in its hand. This is rather remarkable because he is being asked to take something into himself that is non-material. He cannot simply go and take the scroll in his physical hand. And I went to the angel and said to it, "Give me the little book." And the angel says, "Take it and eat it. It shall be bitter in your stomach, but sweet in your mouth as honey." Now, we all have the experience of having eaten. We eat something that tastes really good, but later we kind of go, that wasn't really what I needed, or it's not doing me good, or it's kind of rumbling around in the stomach. Earthly food can happen. It's chemicals. We can also take in something of a higher order. Perhaps a word, a thought, an idea that sounds really great when we first hear it. Yes, sweet, let's do that. Let's found a new community out in the countryside where everyone's going to love each other and get along, and utopia. Remember, some of us lived in the days when those were popular. And then you get together and you realize this takes work. It's not always easy to get along. After spending a week with that guy over there in that green tent, I noticed he has some weird habits. How am I going to get along with this? This is bitter. This isn't what I expected. And then the question is, what do I do about that? Have I committed myself to this particular idea, to this ideal? Have I said to other people, have I said to the world of the spirit, to an angel, to my guardian angel, to the angel of a community, yes, I will do this? These are times, my dear friends, when we grow. When we notice that something in the beginning was just sweet like this book. But as we digest, and of course in our physical apparatus, we have all sorts of enzymes and juices that go back and forth, and they destroy what we've taken in, and they make it useful for our body, or they send it out through the usual canals. And that which stays helps us grow, or helps us stay alive, or helps us think, see, hear, move, work. When we get together in a human plane with others, we can start with magnificent ideals. And at some point, we're going to notice this isn't working quite the way I thought it would. And that guy over there, or that woman there, or that family there, they're not pulling their weight, or they're not living according to the ideals. And this is where that magnificent instrument comes, which is called conversation. The bitterness wakes us up. Bitter is a taste sensation that we might even avoid a little bit. There are a few, actually very few, foods that carry bitterness in them. They have an awakening property. They also have the property of pulling us together, kind of shocking our system, shocking our tongue. And the bitterness wakes us up, calls us to ourselves. What have I gotten myself into? Where am I? Who are these people? Oh, I chose them. I said yes to all of this. Was I awake? Was I asleep when I said yes? I was awake. I meant every word of it. And that yes that you said when it all looked so sweet, and you didn't quite know how bitter it could get, that yes will carry you through. And apparently something of this bitterness in John's stomach, because he eats the book, it was sweet in his mouth. As soon as I had eaten it, my stomach was bitter, he said. And then the angel speaks. You must prophesy again before many peoples and nations and tongues and kings. Not a lot of this message has been sweet up until now. Disasters and murders and treachery and hatefulness and idol worship. John has not only experienced sweet things in his revelation. And here in the midst of all of it, he is able to take in one part of the book that is sweet, and that too turns bitter. But that too, which turns bitter, reveals his next step. What is he to do next? Prophesy before peoples, nations, tongues, and kings. Now you and I might not think, well, I'm not going to be prophesying before peoples and nations and tongues and kings. Perhaps not. Perhaps you're going to prophesy for your housemate, your lover, your friend, your neighbor, a stranger. Perhaps you've acquired some wisdom along the way, and it's in there just waiting to come out. You don't know yet, until the opportunity presents itself and you become apocalyptic. You become a revealer of whatever, even if it's the tiniest little bit of wisdom or something earth-shattering for another person. We undersell ourselves way too much. We are apocalyptic. We could go on and on about this mighty other angel, but I would just like to encourage you to look into chapter 11, those of you who might want to join me in a week. I'll be back in my own little nest in Chicago, and we will be moving on to the 7th trumpet. There's a wonderful, not very long, a short novel, a long short story by a Russian author called Solovyov. What's his first name again? Solovyov. A short story of the Antichrist. And Solovyov was inspired by the 11th chapter of the book of Revelation. If you have the opportunity to read that short story, it could be very revealing. And I'll probably be referring to it next week. I'll put the title in the comments so you can find it later. Thank you for listening. Be apocalyptic this week. See what comes out of that mouth after bitterness has awoken you. Have a good Sunday.